Hello again, this is Anthony, the creator of Clever Gizmos and the software app Keyword Researcher. In the previous video, we went over the art and science of image web optimization, and we showed you how even some of the world's biggest internet companies often don't properly save their images on the web. Image file size, website load times, site speed, these definitely make up one aspect of SEO. But in this video, we'll be talking about some of the pros and cons with traditional SEO, and discussing how these Google algorithms, these bots, go about cataloging and ranking all the websites on the internet. Now, if you're watching this video, then chances are you've probably already had some exposure to SEO methodology. But I hope we're able to dive a bit deeper and try to get to a more nuanced level of SEO understanding. But first, let's go through the basics very quickly. First, what is SEO? SEO stands for Search Engine Optimization, and it encompasses the practice of optimizing your website so that search engines, like Google, are more likely to feature your webpage above your competitor's webpage. People in the world are searching for goods or services, and they use search engines as a vehicle to find the stuff that they want. Google has the job of cataloging every webpage in the world, and they try to guess what the searcher is looking for based solely on whatever he types into the Google search box. The majority of people only click on one of the top 3 results they see. Hence, you want your website to be as high as possible on the Google search engine results page, also called the SERP, because the higher your website ranks in Google, the more traffic you get to your website. The more traffic you get to your website, the more money you make. It's not always that simple, but especially for web-based business models, it's often just as simple as that. A girl who owns a lemonade stand on a busy street with lots of traffic will make more money than a girl who owns a lemonade stand on a street without much traffic. Okay, so that answers the questions, what is SEO and why do we want to learn SEO? But now let's talk about the hard question, the how. How do we do SEO? Ultimately, that's the million-dollar question, and that's what this class is about. Let's start off with some history. Let's wind the clock back to a time long ago, to the ancient history of SEO, about 5 years ago. Back then, SEO was a dark and mysterious art that was mostly just practiced by computer wizards in scary laboratories. That's probably why, quote, black hat SEO still remains so prevalent today. But these days, SEO is fairly mainstream. SEO has become a pivotal component of the marketing strategies of millions of businesses the world over. And there's been 4 best-selling books about Google itself in the Plex, I'm Feeling Lucky, The Google Story, and The New Digital Age. That one's by former Google CEO Eric Schmidt. Incidentally, I read all these books, and I don't necessarily recommend them for what we do in SEO. Although In the Plex was pretty good. If you run a website, I'd suggest reading that one. But back in the day, traditionally, the practice of SEO was often synonymous with link building. Link building is the process of building links, of course, also called backlink building. It's the process of creating, or otherwise attaining, links on other people's websites that point to your website. So why does a website want backlinks? Because there are actually 2 types of users on the internet, humans and robots. So Google's job is to catalog the web, and they do this by deploying thousands of robots, thousands of programs that scour the internet and follow links all day and night. These programs have lots of names. They're often called robots or bots or spiders or crawlers. Google's program is often referred to as Googlebot. But whatever you call it, these are just little programs that crawl the web, download websites, and store the contents at a Google data center. Eventually, all this data is run through a complex algorithm that assigns various ranking and cataloging metrics to every URL on the internet. So how does Google assign a rank value to your webpage? Traditionally, the website with the most links won. So suppose that Tom owned a puppy website where he sells his ebook on how to build a doghouse. And suppose Susie has a blog about pets called susiesblog.com. Tom wants his website, puppyplace.com, to rank higher in Google for the keyword how to build a doghouse. So Tom writes an article on cool doghouse designs for Susie, and he emails it to her. Susie likes Tom's article, so she publishes it on her website. Now, Tom's article contains a link to his own website, of course. So hence, Tom has just attained a link, a backlink, from Susie. Now, a couple of days later, one of Google's bots comes to Susie's website, and the bot sees this new article, Cool Doghouse Designs. And Googlebot also sees this newly created link pointing to Tom's Puppy Place website. Thus, Google infers that the content at the Puppy Place website must have some degree of value, because, after all, Susie is now linking to it. Every incoming link is, in Google's eyes, seen as a vote. So in essence, Google sees Susie's link as a vote, as an indicator that puppyplace.com is a good website. Now, just one link from one random dog website is usually not enough to get excited about. But through the years, as puppyplace.com accumulates more and more such links, this website will hopefully rank higher and higher and higher on Google, hence getting the most clicks and the most traffic from Google, and hence making Tom more money. So this is an idealized explanation of traditional backlink building SEO in a nutshell. But now let's dive in a bit deeper. Let's go back in time a little more to the pre-Google days and see if we can develop a more intuitive understanding of how SEO began. So back in 1998, two University of Stanford students named Larry Page and Sergey Brin developed the PageRank algorithm, a new method for ranking web pages. They then wrote a couple academic papers, and they went on to build their own search engine called Backrub. Fortunately, they later made the wise decision to change the name of their company from Backrub to Google, and they also eventually adopted a much better looking logo too. Now, as a fun fact, this horrible picture on the left really was the first Google logo. It's actually a picture of Larry Page's hand, which he stuck into a computer scanner. And the word Google is actually a misspelling of the word Google with an OL, which means the number 1 followed by 100 zeros. But no one in the office caught the spelling mistake when the domain name was first registered back in September of 1997. And the domain name with the correct spelling was already taken anyway. Okay, so why are the founders of Google, Larry Page and Sergey Brin, so rich? Why does Google have so much money? Well, initially their success was, in part, based on their implementation of the observation that the more links people make to a web page, the more useful or trustworthy that web page probably is. Just like we covered in our example previously, if you can get a lot of websites to link to you, then Google uses this metric as a hint that your website probably has a lot of value. Now, if you enjoy reading mind-numbing academic journals, you can download the 1998 paper about Google's initial algorithm design at the Stanford University website. It's entitled The PageRank Citation Ranking, Bringing Order to the Web by Larry Page, January 29, 1998. This paper outlined the billion-dollar idea that eventually went on to make Google one of the most successful companies of all time, because this was the idea that enabled Google to sort websites better than their competitors, primarily Yahoo and AltaVista in those days. Now, the math behind PageRank is pretty complex, but basically it all boils down to this. If your web page has no other web pages linking to it, then that is bad. If your web page has lots of other web pages linking to it, then that is good. And if the web page that is linking to you also has lots of other web pages linking to it, then that is very, very good. In our slide here, we can see that the top web page is obviously more important than any of these other web pages along the bottom. These ones on the bottom have no other pages linking to them, but this page on top is getting 3 links from 3 pages that also have 3 links pointing to each of them. So it's fairly easy to write a program, a robot, to simply crawl the net and count the number of links pointing to each web page, and then just make the assumption that the web page with the most accumulated links is probably better, and should generally rank above websites that don't have many links. So according to the original Google algorithm, whichever website has the most and strongest links wins. Now, in a way, this observation was the genius as well as the flaw in Larry Page's big idea, because the Google algorithm could be, and still can be, gamed by anyone who was willing to devote themselves to the monotonous chore of backlink creation. The chore of creating and deploying thousands of links, all pointing to the web page you were trying to rank in Google. It was this observation that inspired the birth of the billion-dollar SEO industry, and a new generation of gray hat marketers and SEO guys who published an entire universe of hastily produced articles on the web that all contained links pointing back to their primary website. Many of these links contained cheaply written article content or were just pure spam links. When Google realized that people were doing this, they formed the Web Spam Team, led by the notorious Google engineer Matt Cutts. And they started de-indexing, or otherwise punishing, websites which were engaging in what Google deemed to be an artificial inflation of their Google search engine rankings. This JCPenney case is just one of hundreds of famous examples of Google going after various backlink schemes. This one happened back in 2011, and every year both Google and the SEOs that get paid to rank websites in Google have to come up with increasingly complex tools to outsmart each other in this war, this constant SEO arms race. So that was a quick summary of the Wild West days of SEO and Google. Quote, doing SEO used to entail lots of backlink building. A lot of people claim that this is what SEO still entails, and they have a point. It is still true, at least to some extent, that the current Google algorithm operates in large part based on a web page's backlink value. Building up this value is still the goal of off-page SEO, which is why this class includes a module on off-page SEO. But the industry's Wild West days are leaving us. In the least, it is much trickier to rank a website these days based solely on rote backlink construction. Google does have other metrics at their disposal, and we're going to go over 3 of them now. These are 3 factors, 3 user behavior metrics, other than backlinks, that may affect your Google ranking. Okay, factor number 1, navigational searches. These are people who use Google to find a particular website domain or brand. A big part of Google's job is merely to return navigational search results. Often, the world's biggest search engine is not really a search engine at all. It's just a tool for looking up domain names. You'll notice in this slide of the Google Keyword Planner that the word Facebook, or variations and misspellings of the word Facebook, are probably typed into Google over 4 billion times each month. Note that there are just 7 billion people on the entire planet, so obviously most of these queries are typed in by the same people again and again and again. A lot of people visit Facebook dozens of times each day. But in any case, here's the thing to realize. These days, when people use their web browser, they almost never type the .com anymore. Back in the old days, with the old web browsers, you had to perfectly type the complete domain name of the website you were trying to get to. And if you didn't type the domain name correctly, or you made a spelling mistake, or you forgot to put .com, or you put .org instead of .com, or whatever, then you'd get a website not found page, and you would have to start typing all over again. These days, the programmatic browser behavior has changed. People type the brand name directly into the top address bar or directly into the Google search box, and then they press enter. And modern web browsers interpret this not as a domain name, but as a search query. And the browser sends this query to its default search engine, usually Google. So Google receives the query, Facebook, and renders a search engine results page that usually does a pretty good job of guessing which web destination you actually want to go to. And people have gotten used to just clicking on that top link. So if you think about it, this is actually a little odd, that most of us actually get to websites via another website, Google, primarily because we're just too lazy to type the last 4 characters, the .com. And remember, this phenomenon happens over 4 billion times per month just for one website, Facebook. But you get a similar phenomenon for all websites. In this slide here, you can see that 1.3 billion people a month type in YouTube and press enter. 923 million people a month type in Google and press enter. 414 million people a month type in Gmail and press enter. 277 million people a month type in Yahoo and press enter, etc., etc. So here's the question to ask yourself. If you were Google, how would you use this data? Let's go through a quick thought experiment. Consider our hypothetical example websites, puppyplace.com and doggyebooks.com. Let's suppose that Puppy Place is owned by a licensed veterinarian who has devoted his life to the study of the proper care and feeding of dogs. He's grown up with dogs, he's gone to college to study dogs, he's traveled around the world giving lectures about dog health, he's appeared on TV news shows to comment on dog training techniques, etc., etc., etc. And let's suppose that doggyebooks.com is owned by a guy who doesn't even like dogs, but he took a class on how to make money online, and he found some dog training ebooks on ClickBank, and he has filled his website with lots of hastily written dog articles. And on each page of his website, he has placed affiliate links to these ebook products, which he hasn't even actually read himself. So ask yourself, which of these websites will have more people in the world actively searching for its brand name? Are more people in the world going to type in Puppy Place and press enter? Or are more people in the world going to type in Doggy Ebooks and press enter? Well, I hope it's clear that more people in the world will be typing Puppy Place and pressing enter. Why? Because the owner of puppyplace.com has a real business model, and he's devoted his life to the subject of dog training, and he has connected with real customers in his niche via various media outlets. So real people in the world will actively be seeking him out. But the owner of Doggy Ebooks is just a guy trying to make affiliate money selling ebooks. So again, ask yourself this question. If you were Google, how would you use this data? If you were Google and you had server logs showing thousands of people on thousands of unique IP addresses each month, typing in the brand name Puppy Place and clicking on the top Google search result, and you saw only one person each month typing in the brand name Doggy Ebooks, then wouldn't you think that puppyplace.com was probably more trustworthy than doggyebooks.com? Wouldn't you think that puppyplace.com probably has better information? Wouldn't you be more inclined to rank puppyplace.com above this obviously unpopular website, doggyebooks.com, which has only one person in the world actively searching for it, possibly the mom of the guy who owns it? So this sort of data is a very obvious and easy to harvest trust metric for Google to utilize. It makes sense for Google to presume that puppyplace.com should rank over Doggy eBooks. Okay, that's item number 1. Now, what other factors might affect your Google ranking other than backlinks? Factor number 2, return visitors. Recall, in our previous example, Google can see the IP addresses of these unique users as they instigate navigational searches, which means they can also log the IP addresses of these unique visitors, and hence, Google knows which websites out there have return visitors coming to them again and again and again. Let's consider our example websites. In our slide here, we're showing a highly simplified and stylized log file of 4 different users accessing a website via Google for 1 week, Sunday through Saturday. So look on the left. On Sunday, 4 different people Googled up this website, puppyplace.com, and then they returned to the website again and again, multiple times throughout the week. And on the right, you can see on Sunday, Google saw 4 different people do a navigational search for the Doggy eBooks website, but then none of the users ever came back. So just ask yourself, which website do you think is probably more trustworthy, puppyplace.com or doggyebooks.com? Would you trust the website that has real people returning to it multiple times per week throughout the year, throughout several years, or the website where everyone who goes there only goes there 1 time and they never ever come back? So obviously it appears that this website, puppyplace.com, is more trustworthy and perhaps contains better information than its competitor. Whatever info these 4 users are finding at puppyplace.com, it must be in some way useful to them, or they wouldn't be taking time out of their life to come back to this website again and again and again. So here we see another metric that Google could use: return visitors, their archival record of visitors who repeatedly performed navigational searches for the same website. Okay, one more. Factor number 3, pogo sticking. What is pogo sticking? If a user clicks on a web page link from the Google search results page, doesn't like what he sees there, and comes right back to Google and clicks something else, this is called pogo sticking. Pogo sticking is bad. So ask yourself this question. If you were Google, how would you use this data? Imagine sitting in your Google office in Mountain View, California, and watching a bunch of people click on a link and then come right back to Google 3 seconds later and click on a different link. If you saw this happen again and again, what would you conclude about that first link they were clicking? I think it's pretty obvious. If everybody who clicks that link hates the website that it leads to, if they always pogo stick back to Google after 3 seconds, then perhaps Google should move this link down and move other links up, links that might satisfy the users more. This phenomenon was actually nicely described in Stephen Levy's book, In the Plex. The book contains this stanza here from Google engineer Amit Patel. It reads, Google could see how satisfied users were. Happy users did long clicks. This occurred when someone went to a search result and did not return to Google. That meant Google had successfully fulfilled the query. Unhappy users did short clicks. They clicked on a link and immediately returned to Google. So there it is. You have these user behavior terms, long clicks and short clicks, and other SEO terms are commonly thrown into such discussions like dwell time or bounce rate. But in any case, the point is, all of these metrics are available to Google in some form or another. And some formulaic concoction of this data is employed to gauge overall, quote, user satisfaction. Basically, we can assume that websites that satisfy the query of a Google user are probably ranked higher than websites that do not satisfy the query of a Google user. If they weren't, then Google wouldn't be doing their job. Also notice that none of this stuff is merely raw theory. We know that Google tracks pogo sticking. Their engineers said they track pogo sticking. We know that billions of people repeatedly navigate to websites via Google. You can see their stats in the Google Keyword Planner. So it's not a question of if Google uses these behavior metrics. It's only a question of how much. Okay, so let's recap. We've just gone through 3 ranking factors that are completely unrelated to backlinks. Again, the SEO industry has traditionally been synonymous with backlink building, but I hope this discussion has prompted you to think beyond mere backlink construction when doing SEO. So where does that leave us then? It's important to understand that there are 2 distinct pillars in SEO. There's off-page SEO and there's on-page SEO. In a lot of SEO pedagogy, they often don't even distinguish between the 2. But the distinction needs to be stressed because the skill sets employed in these 2 pillars are quite disjunctive. Backlink building falls in the off-page SEO category. It's the practice of attaining links on other people's websites. On-page SEO is different. It refers to the SEO work that you do, quote, on page, on your own web page. On-page SEO encompasses a few tasks. Primarily, it's concerned with massaging your article content such that it contains the keyword phrases that people are actually typing into Google when they're looking for your product or service. Second, it's about arranging your site architecture, internal links, navigational menus, such that your content is easily discoverable by the search engines, by Google. And finally, on-page SEO is often paired with the planning of a content strategy, the editorial strategy you'll employ when choosing which topics to write about on your website. Now, we go over all of these in the class, but now let's just take a look at number 1, get the keywords on your webpage. So why is this step taken so seriously? Why are there so many keyword apps on the market? Why has my own app been cloned so many times? Here's a clone, another clone. Everybody clones everybody in the software industry, and there are many more apps out there than these 3. But why so many keyword tools? Why do website owners bother with keywords and on-page SEO? Because keyword research is typically the first step in on-page SEO. There is one quote by Google engineer Matt Cutts that really stands out. He says, "If you don't have the keyword on your site, it's very hard for search engines to return that site." Sometimes we can. Someone can type in automobile, and we can return a page that has the word car on it. We can do that a little bit, but if you don't have the keyword on your site, you're probably not going to rank for it. Now, this quote is a bit dated, and it's not the whole story. Google does, purportedly, get better every day at digesting a website's content and determining its semantic nature. And this quote by Matt also ignores the off-page SEO component of ranking. Web pages that don't contain the searcher's keyword actually rank in Google all the time. But ultimately, you should still at least try to angle your content creation efforts such that they are reflective of the keywords that people are actually typing into Google when they're looking for whatever product or service your website has. That's the essence of on-page SEO. We strive to refer to your product or service using the same words that your customers use when they search for your product or service. If your customers are typing in San Francisco florist and the words San Francisco and florist do not appear anywhere at all on your page, then it's asking a lot of a machine, a robot, of the Google algorithm to know how to categorize and rank this website. We, us humans, can see the picture of the Golden Gate Bridge. We can see a bunch of flowers for sale. So it's easy for us to infer that this is probably the website of a florist near San Francisco. But to a machine's eyes, this just looks like a page full of colorful pictures and some text about flowers. So we use keyword tools like the Google Keyword Planner or my own app, Keyword Researcher, to dig up lots of keywords that reveal what our potential customers, the human searchers on Google, are actually typing into Google. The method by which you pepper these keywords into your site content is what comprises the art and science of on-page SEO. In this class, we teach both on and off-page SEO, but I much prefer on-page SEO for several reasons. Let's talk about 3 quick reasons now. Reason number 1, on-page SEO is change resistant. While off-page SEO is a practice that is constantly in flux, on-page SEO is change resistant. If you spend any amount of time on internet marketing blogs or forums, you will forever be stumbling upon this guy. Some random guy who appears to be making money based on some quirky SEO trick he's discovered. But if you keep tracking these guys, if you keep following along in their thread or blog, then you'll eventually see them post an acerbic update about how that evil corporation, Google, has just wiped their website off of the search results page, and they're not making money anymore. Everyone in SEO has seen this happen again and again and again. It's happened to me more times than I care to admit. If you ever spend a day clicking old links to internet marketing and SEO blogs from just a couple years ago, you'll be hit with a flurry of website not found pages. Almost all of these gray hat and black hat marketers eventually close up shop. You saw a lot of this during the Panda and Penguin algorithm updates. This is why we're not teaching, quote, SEO tricks. Fortunately, unlike off-page SEO, on-page SEO is not as susceptible to the ebb and flow of Google. People argue about on-page topics like over-optimization, article word count, website load times, etc. But the core principles of on-page SEO are fairly persistent. That's one of the reasons I prefer on-page SEO. Here's another reason. Reason number 2, on-page SEO allows you to control your content. In off-page SEO, you spend a lot of time building backlinks for other people's websites that point to your website. And this entails basically devoting yourself to keeping tabs on a large network of third-party web properties, making sure that the content and backlinks you've deployed are actually still there a month later. But of course, once you've published your backlink content on someone else's server, you don't really retain any control of it. Hence, you are forever subject to the whims of the guy who owns the website. If you work really hard on an article for a particular site, and then the owner goes out of business, well, you've lost that backlink. That can be pretty frustrating. Thankfully, with on-page SEO, all of your content is on your own website, so you always retain complete control of it. Reason number 3, on-page SEO is something you have to do anyway. Whether you know SEO or not, your website has to have some sort of content on it. You gotta put words on your website. Your site can't just be a blank page. And once you know on-page SEO, then the amount of work it takes to build an SEO optimized web page is not really much more than the amount of work it takes to build a web page that doesn't have any SEO optimization at all. So if you've got to build the site anyway, you might as well build it utilizing foundational SEO principles. These are the principles we discuss in the class, and fortunately, they will become second nature to you after a little training and practice.